Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a very warm welcome on behalf of eurosac and CP Eurocraft to our webinar series meeting today's and tomorrow's challenges sustainably with paper sacks. Well, very happy to have you here with us today. This is already our second webinar edition. And well, in the first edition, we informed you about all aspects why paper sacks are in the best place to support in turning businesses more sustainable and move towards a circular economy. Today, we'll talk about performance, paper sack sustainable packaging with high performance. And we do that for different reasons. First of all, the packaging landscape in Europe is changing rapidly. Latest EU actions plans, we've all seen that, and legislation supporting a circular economy. That's maybe just one very prominent example. Then paper packaging made from bio-based, renewable, recyclable, and sustainable material, therefore, certainly is on the rise. Well, and last but not least, the sustainability issue, switching to a more recyclable packaging solution is only one side of the story. As producers of, dry powder materials, you need more than that. So what about product protection, functionality, hygiene, food contact compliance, and cost efficiency? Are paper sacks able to do that job? Well, I guess a lot to talk about this morning. And so I'm very happy to have three wonderful speakers right here with me today. Let me introduce, first of all, Catherine Plitzko-Carnino. She is General Delegate at eurosac. She's been with eurosac for 23 years and is in charge of the federation since 2011. So, she's really gained profound knowledge, I would say, on the different aspects linked to paper sacks. Very well, welcome, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Corinna. I look forward to hopefully giving some good insights to the paper sack later on today.
Yes, I'm sure. Let me just add a couple of sentences on eurosac. For those who don't know, it's the European Federation of Multi-Wall Paper Sack Manufacturers and represents over 70% of European paper sack manufacturers. And in addition, paper bag manufacturers also contribute to the federation, as well as more than 20 suppliers, if I'm well informed. So that's quite a big framework that you're in charge of. Well, welcome again. So our next speaker that I want to introduce at this point is Susanna Anderson. She is project manager at Normpac. And she works as a regulatory specialist on food safety and food contact materials and gives or provides legal guidance in the assessment of food contact materials and also gives trainings within that field. Susanna has a background in the paper and board industry. And her organization, Normpac, was founded 40 years ago as an initiative of the Swedish industry to give support to give companies support to fulfill the legal requirements, actually, for food contact materials. Normpac currently has around 180 member companies. Susanna, great to have you here this morning. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and third of all, I have the great pleasure to welcome our gentleman in our round today, and is Thomas Hilling, and he is General Manager at Haber & Böcker Institute. Haber & Böcker, he joined 24 years ago. That's quite some time also. And after having worked several years in the development of packaging machines, he's now responsible for the global application and sales. And Haber & Böcker Institute is positioned as a consultant to customers for customer-specific questions, actually, concerning packaging, filling, and processing technology within the machine manufacturer, Haber & Böcker. So, very good to have you here this morning also. Welcome, Thomas.
Yeah, hello, everybody, and thanks for the nice introduction.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll make it a very valuable morning or hour together here. Welcome to the three of you again. And for those who don't know me yet, my name is Corinna Egemer. I'm a professional presenter and moderator. And well, I have the great pleasure to guide you through the program this morning. Well, this morning, our agenda is actually very short. We have an hour time approximately. And we have all three speakers present short speeches. And after each speech, you will have the chance to ask your questions. And well, I do want to encourage you to do so, because we certainly want to make sure we answer the questions that well, you are interested in. So if you want to answer a question, or if you want to ask a question, I should say it that way, you just use the Q&A button, which you find on the lower line of your screen. And well, there you can put in the question, send it, and I will see the question and try to pick up as many as I can, of course. And well, if there's not enough time to answer all your questions, you can still send an email to info@eurosac.org, and we'll try to answer your question then afterwards. Well, in the beginning and in the end of our session, we have like an, well, I call it an interactive survey question. So that means we'd like your opinion, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to hear that. And well, we will get started now right away, and actually with that. So now, before we start with our first speech, let's just see the first survey question. Can we just have that, please? Yes, it is coming up. And ladies and gentlemen, we are interested in your opinion. Which performance feature is most important for you when you choose a packaging solutions? Is it either shelf life, or moisture protection, or cleanliness, or sustainability, or cost efficiency? So you might just wanna do or take your choice right now, and I'll just give you a little time to do that. And yes, we are very interested on what your answer will be. Well, and I would suggest while we wait, I already asked Catherine on, I almost said on stage, on screen, I would say. Catherine, here you are. I can see you. It's pretty, because your speech is going to be the first one, and maybe we can look at the survey together until we get the answers. Isn't it like every single one of these features is very important, isn't it?
They are all very important, and we'll all tackle them during this hour we have in front of us. And I'm really curious to see the outcome, because sustainability was already on one of the survey questions at our last webinar, where we had the question, which aspect is most important to you when choosing a sustainable packaging solution? And we had the two options, low carbon footprint or sustainably sourced material. And 3/4 of the people who answered said that the sustainably sourced material was for them the most important aspect to this. So I'm really curious to see if sustainability comes up very high here as well, or if people will favor other topics, as today's webinar, of course, is more really on the performance. So maybe the people who listen to us today are more interested in aspects like shelf life, or
actually, we can see already, management is telling me that we have almost all the answers. Wow.
Okay.
Now,
so again, sustainability coming up first. Wow.
Yes, but that's pretty well elaborated, isn't it? So, all right. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for voting. Very interesting pictures that we have seen here. And well, now let me ask you for your speech, Catherine. Performance powered by nature.
Okay, let me share my screen. Yeah, well, we just saw that sustainability came up first, even in our survey right now. So good that my first slide goes back to the webinar we had last month. I just wanted to make a short recall of the most important points we mentioned there. And yeah, there we said we had a presentation by Jori Ringman from CEPI, who showed us this picture. And explained it to us, explaining where the paper, which we made the paper sacks of, come from. Paper is made from wood, tree thinnings, process waste from sawn timber industry, and paper is a renewable resource. In Europe, the raw material is sourced from sustainably managed forests, which act as carbon sink. And you always hear about deforestation, but actually in Europe, the forests are growing by about 600 million cubic meter a year, which is quite an achievement. And to make paper even more sustainably, the paper recycling rate in Europe is 73.9% last year. So that's really nice, some nice figures and some nice data on sustainability. Another point we mentioned at the last webinar, which was mentioned especially by Michael Sturgis from RISE, who presented some of the studies which we had run in the past, is the carbon footprint. Eurosac and SAP Eurocraft have been running carbon footprint studies for many years, and we do them regularly also to be able to show the evolution over the years and the development. And when we look at the last two studies, data of 2018 and the data before 2015, we can see that the carbon footprint of one paper sack decreased by 8% in those 3 years, from 92 gram CO2 equivalent to 85 gram CO2 equivalent. And actually, when you look at the data at a longer period, which we are able to do because we've been running these studies for such a long time, you can even see a reduction of 28% from 2007 to 2018, from 118 grams CO2 equivalent to 85 grams CO2 equivalent, which means that the EU target of reducing the carbon footprint, the greenhouse gas emissions by 20% in 2020 compared to 1990 has easily been achieved by our industry. So we are really on the track for sustainability. But now we also had those other topics on performance on the agenda today. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about product protection. Paper sacks provide a strong product protection and a high material efficiency. 100 grams of paper sack can hold 25 kilo of filled material. This is for certain paper sacks, for example, for cement sacks. 100 grams of paper sacks hold one full cement sack of 25 kilo. 100 gram, just to have an idea what it is, it's a bar of chocolate. So when you compare this, just a small bar of chocolate can hold 25 kilo, which is quite amazing. And this has been achieved also by improvements of the strength of kraft paper over the last years, which has been improved by 48% in the last 2 decades, and the porosity, which means that the air can go through the paper when the sack is filled, and the filling machines has been improved by 29% in the last 2 decades. And this is all possible because of a special mechanical refining process of the long fibers, which then get very high bonding strength, which gives the sack kraft paper its unique strength. And well, thanks to these very strong fibers, the paper sacks achieve a perfect product protection and show very low damage rates. We made a study on that, and we came to the conclusion that there's a damage rate of only 1 to 2% from point of filling to the point of sale. But of course, paper sacks and PE sacks, any sacks can break if you're not careful with them. So we have also established handling recommendations to provide information about risks and to offer solutions and best practices, how to handle these paper sacks so that they arrive safely at the customer. Long shelf life, that's another big issue. It's a request from the industry. How long can you store products in sacks? And we've made a study as well checking in a usual storing conditions in an outdoor storage house in Norway. So it's no easy conditions, if we say it like this. We stored paper sacks and PE sacks for 18 months there, and checked after 9 months, 12 months, and then 18 months if the quality of the cement which was packed in these paper sacks and plastic sacks was still correct. And we came to the conclusion that the quality and performance of the cement was well within the requirements of the industry. So we can, from this study, we can clearly say we can guarantee a long shelf life for both. Well, it's not up to us to guarantee this, of course, for the PE sac, but for the paper sac, we can say we have a long shelf life of 18 months, even if normally bagged cement is usually stored for no longer than 2 to 3 months. So long shelf life is really a point where we are really very performant as well. Then when it comes to performance regarding moisture protection, well, under normal circumstances, a standard 2-ply paper sack with a protective layer is the perfect solution, but sometimes there are weather conditions where you need some more protection. And then you can, for example, add a thin bioplastic, plastic, or another adequate barrier, a film or a surface layer to make a special treatment on the surface for particularly effective protection. And there are many solutions which have been developed by the industry where research is going on, and these developments, they're all also compatible with existing paper sack filling machines. I think Thomas might say something about this later on. And so these can be some plastics or barrier films or other surface layers. And can also be bioplastics, and this is also an area we've been working on a lot in the past years. So the whole industry has made a lot of efforts here. Our target is that paper sacks are made from 100% natural materials, fulfilling the same high level of functionality as sacks with conventional fossil-based barriers, whilst maintaining recyclability. And there's research going on in the research institutes like CTP in France, Centre Technique du Papier, Fraunhofer Institute in Germany, RISE in Sweden, and others, and also in companies. And this is my last slide, where I would like to show you some of the developments which have been going on in the companies of the eurosac members. And these are the entries which we had for our eurosac Grand Prix, which we design every year. And this year's eurosac Grand Prix, we had 8 entries, and all of them were around topics like bio barrier developments, moisture protection, specific moisture protection, or going into sustainable solutions by reducing resources of glue, for example, or to optimize the filling chain and optimize also the closing of bags. So a lot of developments going on there. Unfortunately, we only have an hour today. I would love to tell you more about this, but you will find all this information. We also have made a small video actually on the Grand Prix entries, which you can find on the eurosac and SAP Eurocraft website and YouTube channel. So you can take a look at these developments. Yeah, Corinna, that was
all right.
In very short, saying a little bit about this industry.
Interesting and well, certainly comprehensive, not only topic but speech also. Thank you very much, Catherine. And well, I did see you have a lot of experience in there, certainly. We do not have any questions from the audience yet, but ladies and gentlemen, we're very happy to receive your questions via the Q&A button. If you have any, this is the moment you might want to just write them in. Catherine, seeing the picture of the paper sacks, they're so different. Actually, I was wondering, does it make a difference in performance whether I use white or brown paper sacks?
No, in performance, it doesn't make a difference. They're both very high quality papers. The difference is really for printing, I would say. If you need a specific printing on a paper sack, you might want to use white paper, but the performance they're both equally strong, and no performance difference.
Okay. Then another question. Well, we've certainly seen that paper sacks are a complex product, and also on the other side, the customer's needs are very individual, well, complex sometimes as well. How do I find the best paper sack solution for my specific project, actually?
I would go to the eurosac website, look into members, and then contact the members of eurosac and check with them directly what kind of solutions they can propose. They all have very individual solutions sometimes. And well, if you see here this slide, there are so many different members who had great innovations. You really see that they are all capable of proposing interesting, sustainable solutions.
So
that would be my recommendation. Yep.
Well, that sounds like a feasible way. We do have a couple of audience questions now. The first is, are bio barriers organic and recyclable? Wait a minute, now I have to go. As in, what is this? Organic and recyclable as they return to the environment.
Could you say it again? I cannot see the question on the screen, so could you repeat it once more?
Are bio barriers organic and recyclable as they return to the environment? Bio barriers, that's the question.
Yes. Well, I mean, there are many solutions, the many bio barrier solutions, and bio barrier is really very vast field of different applications. So yes, the idea is to develop solutions of bio barriers which return to the environment without harming the environment. That's clearly the idea behind. Then you have to look in detail in the different solutions. But yes, that's what is the aim.
Are there any performance comparisons in this with virgin fibers? Someone wants to know.
Well, paper sacks are usually made of virgin fiber because, as I said in the beginning, these fibers have to be extremely strong, and just the weight of a chocolate bar has to carry 25 kilos cement. So you can imagine that the fibers have to be extremely strong, and this can only be done with virgin fiber. You could, of course, use recycled fiber, but in that case, you would need to have much thicker paper, which might then not be as permeable anymore as the virgin fiber, so it doesn't have the same properties. And if you want to go for the optimum actually of very lightweight packaging, which is also an aim in reducing a packaging material. So if you want to have really strong paper, very thin paper at the same time, you need virgin fibers.
Okay.
You can, of course, use the virgin fibers to recycle in recycling processes, and can use these fibers, for example, to increase the strength in corrugated board, as an example.
Okay. Well, we have time for one more question. Actually, Catherine, you could stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
So.
Yes. then I might be able to see the.
Yes, I think it's very easy.
I could see the questions as well, which is good.
Oh, there's an interesting question. Given the increasing demand and high-strength craft paper grades, does eurosac believe that there's enough of new production capacity, the paper production being being projected?
That's a difficult question. I don't have the crystal ball. I don't know how the evolution, how it will go on. Of course, there's a very high demand of paper now on all different fields for paper sacks, but paper bags and well, paper is getting a rare source. So it will certainly be a tense situation on the market. And but I'm pretty confident at the same time that usually this balances out after a while. So
Okay.
I would say it should work out.
I think we have one more. Are there examples where recycled fiber content is used in paper sacks?
I don't have an example at hand now, but there is a little bit of recycled fiber used as well.
Oh.
Yes. But I cannot tell you for this or that specific product. No.
All right. Well, then we have time limitations here today. So, Catherine, thank you very much again. And well, let's switch to our next speaker. And that is Susanna Anderson from Normpac, and her title is Meeting Compliance for Food Contact. Susanna, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Let's see. All right, so we talk a lot about sustainability and circularity today, or like today in general. But I would like to talk about an aspect of this that is very important that we don't forget, which is consumer safety. And when I say consumer safety here, I specifically talking about the safety of food contact materials, because these materials could potentially transfer constituents to the food, thereby exposing the consumer to these constituents. Because of this, we have a specific legislation for food contact materials, abbreviated the FCM legislation. And there is one important aspect that I would like to highlight, and that is that the FCM legislation is not the same thing as environmental legislation. Environmental legislation is often based on negative lists, meaning that this and this chemical are not allowed to be in the final material or article. The FCM legislation, on the other hand, is based on a positive list, which means that every substance that you put into the material during the production has to be evaluated for the purpose of being in contact with food. And I'm not going to go through all the details of the FCM legislation, but I want to give you an overview of how the legislation looks in the European Union. And if we start at the top here, we have two legislations. We have the Framework Regulation 1935-2004, and then we also have the Good Manufacturing Practice Regulation 2023-2006. And these two regulations are applicable to all the food contact materials, regardless of the material type. And they set sort of the basic requirements for food contact materials. The framework regulation says that materials has to be safe in order to be in contact with food. Under these two regulations, we have the material-specific measures. We have one for regenerated cellulose, so that's cellophane. We have one for ceramics, we have for recycled plastics, active and intelligent materials, and also for plastic in general. And then we have some substance-specific measures. And these specific measures are still on the European level, meaning that they're harmonized in the whole European Union. But as we see here, there are several material types missing. We have, for example, paper and board, coatings, adhesives, metals, printing inks, and rubbers. And if we look at a paper sack, then we're talking about paper and board, we're talking maybe adhesives and maybe printing inks. And for these materials, we don't have any material-specific measures on the European level. This means that we have to use national legislations or recommendations or maybe guidelines in order to make sure that these materials are safe and that they fulfill the framework regulation. So this gives us a pretty complex system, and there's a lot to keep track of. And it also means that different countries can have their own rules. Therefore, the ESG guideline for paper sacks in contact with food was published in 2007. It was then revised in 2013 and then revised again last year in 2020. And this guideline proposes a more structured way how to handle these food contact legislations. And it also provides a basic knowledge on the legislations and recommendations that are applicable to paper sacks. And the scope of this guideline is legislations and recommendations that cover the safety of food contact materials. So not the environmental part of the legislation, only the safety. And it also covers the European market, not the American or the US legislations or the Chinese legislation, for example. The guideline introduces the ESG key 7 steps to compliance. So these are 7 different steps that you can follow in order to reach compliance for your product. It doesn't necessarily has to be done in this order, but all the steps are important to have in your work to reach compliance. And these steps can be divided into 3 different parts. We have E, that stands for established background prerequisites. We have S, that stands for specify construction and legislation. And then we have G, which stands for generate compliance. And if we look into these into more details, we have established background prerequisites. Step 1, define what kind of food type that you will be packing in the sack. Is it a fatty food? Is it only a dry food, etc.? And then you need to define for how long the food will be stored in the paper sack and at what temperature. So will it be in room temperature or maybe in the cold storage? Will it be for 6 months or maybe only a week? When you've done that, you can move on to specify construction and legislations. And in step 3, you describe the construction of the sack. So what kind of material types are included? I have paper, do I have a printing ink? Do I have a glue, etc.? And then you get to step 4, which is where you find out which legislations that are applicable. And this is, of course, based on what the material types that you used. And then you move on to the last step, which is generate compliance. So for step 5, you need to collect all the data from your suppliers for each component in the construction. So you collect documentation for the paper, you collect documentation for the printing ink. And then you take this, combine it with the information that you gathered in the previous steps where you define the food types, etc. And you perform the necessary testing that needs to be done in order to ensure compliance. And once you've done that, you need to generate your compliance statement. And this statement is the document that you will give to your customer to show that this paper sack is evaluated, it fulfills the requirements of the framework regulation, and it is safe to use in contact with food. That was actually my last slide. Thank you very much for listening.
Now, thank you very much, Susanna, also for a very interesting speech. And well, I do see a wide range of legislation. Will there be material-specific legislation actually for paper in the future, do you think?
That's a very interesting question, and I certainly hope so, because it will definitely make this a lot easier. And it's very interesting because at the moment, there's actually a revision ongoing of the whole food contact materials legislation. And this revision is ongoing on the European Commission level. So we might see a completely different legislation in the future. One of the key problems that were identified in the sort of work that's been done so far is that they had identified the lack of material-specific measures for this for many material types as a big problem. So it's definitely something that they are working on during this revision. And the last thing I heard is that the draft for the new legislation will be published in 2023. So we'll see. Hopefully, we'll have something more specific for paper and board.
Well, while we were waiting for audience questions, I'm not seeing any yet. You can stop sharing your screen.
Yes, of course.
You see now this yes, very good. Well, with all the legislation, such a difficult field, I would say. If I'm in charge, who can support me best in meeting all the regulations? It's a very expert area, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a complicated area, and often someone who has to do this work also has to keep track of the environmental legislations and etc. So it's a lot to keep track on. I would say that there are several organizations providing this kind of help. One would of course be Normpac, which I work for, where you can get, as a member, you get counseling, and you can also certify your products, so you get help with the whole assessment. And of course, using these types of guidelines as the ESG guideline.
Are there food safe paper sacks made from 100% paper actually?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you use only substances that are already evaluated and assessed and listed in these positive lists, then yeah, definitely you can produce a paper that is safe and fulfills the requirements of the framework regulation. Yes.
And well, I'm not seeing any audience questions at the moment, so I have one last question to you. Actually, can I pack any powdered food in paper sacks, or is there a limitation to that?
Well, from a product safety point of view, yeah, as long as you pick the right paper sack for the right kind of food. So you need to define what food type is it. You cannot take any paper sack and pack any kind of food. If you have a fatty food, you need to pick the right paper sack that's actually assessed for that type of food.
Well, all right. Well, also we are running out of time. Very sorry for that, Susanna. Thank you very much again for your very interesting and very vivid speech here. Thank you for being with us here this morning.
Thank you.
So, and ladies and gentlemen, already time to pass on to our third speaker. And well, actually during his speech, you can already start typing in your questions if you have any. Again, using the Q&A button, we'll be happy to discuss afterwards. So now our third speaker is Thomas Hilling from Harvard Böcker. And well, Thomas, your topic is efficient, fast, clean. Performance is key for finding the perfect packaging. The screen is yours, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just share my screen. So I hope everybody can see it. Yeah. Just a second. So, as mentioned, for the agenda today, I want to talk a little bit about automatic handling of empty valve bags, the filling as well as the sealing, and finally about the safe handling of filled sacks. On the right side, you can see the so-called packaging triangle that shows the influencing parameters to reach a good filling performance. We have to take care of the product, of the machine setting, as well on the valve bag. Only when these three parameters work perfectly among each other, the result will be perfect. Automatic handling is pretty much great with paper valve sacks. They are perfectly made for automatic application of the filling machine. The optimal opening characteristic, as seen on the upper right picture, is ensuring that, or guarantees the perfect application, even if it is manual or automatic application. Empty sacks can be handled as a bundle, pallets, or be winded on a wheel. It's possible to put up more than 5,000 empty bags on a pallet. Different empty sack magazines allow a storage of up to 4,000 sacks for a fully automatic plant. Also, manual application is convenient. Automatic sac application performance up to 6,000 sacs per hour is possible, and that with a precision rate of 99.97%. Paper sacs provide a clean and very fast filling due to the porosity of the sac kraft paper. We have already heard about it. The air, which is always in the product, has to be pressed out over the paper without letting the product getting out. The sac permeability can be controlled by using different types of papers. Sandwich constructions with laminations, refilm, or special duration concepts. The airflow characteristic of a paper sac, also called permeability, venting, or breathing, is closely related to filling productivity, and hence a high sac permeability will ensure a fast and efficient filling. The amount of air that must escape from the sac depends on the type of product. Generally, finer products need a higher permeability. With a sufficient permeability, no air suction system is necessary. That is helping to save investment costs once you start thinking about a new filling line. A good sac permeability saves operation costs due to a high output with clean operations and less backbursting. Further information can be found on the Industrial Guideline Industrial Paper Sac, available on the website of CP Eurocraft and the eurosac. Paper sacs allow a fast and economic filling. As an example, a 25 kilogram cement sack can be filled in 3 seconds when the empty sac airflow or permeability is bigger than 40 cubic meters per hour. Besides of influencing the filling, the airflow is also influencing the load stability of the full sac pallet. If we have a closer look to the graph, it shows the connection between the type of product and the necessary airflow. How finer a product is, how bigger is the tendency to keep the air in the product, and therewith we need a higher airflow. Coming to sealing after filling. If product losses occur, mainly it comes from perforations, poorly good corners, for instance, or from the valve itself. Valve sealing prevents product losses through the valve of the sac. After filling, the special valve is sealed completely by activating the sealant on the inside with the sealing tool. Sealed valve sacs are the best solution for eliminating spillage from the valve. Means there is no spillage loss anymore once the bag is filled and will be discharged on the conveyor belt or down the line to the warehouse. The ultrasonic sealing technology is an industry standard for sealable valve sacs. In the last years, we installed more than 6,000 euros across Europe. It provides a tight and solid seal in less than 1 second, and thanks to the self-cleaning effect, the seal is always strong and tight. As the seal quality is largely affected by the type of paper, the type of thickness of the sealant, and the valve design, it is very important that these are selected correctly. Even here, there are more closer information on the already mentioned industrial guideline. The results are compact and clean and closed sacs. The weight accuracy is higher due to uncontrolled product losses. That's, by the way, the biggest advantage for fillers. The product protection increases. The transportation of the pallets are more stable, and the whole packaging plant and the environment will be cleaner. Coming to handling of filled sacs. The handling of paper sacs varies significantly between users. The sac should have sufficient strength to survive the journey within acceptable standards. An overall common standard is to do a drop test. Here, the filled sac must resist a drop height on all sides. A paper valve sac can be designed for drop heights up to 3 meters. The safe stacking of filled sacs affects logistics efficiency, safety of people, product waste, and product branding. The sac filling degree is important and will facilitate safe stacking. If the sacs are over or underfilled, they will form unstable sacs with our safety hazard. Yeah, finally, I want to do some sizing recommendations. I have seen that there's already a question in the FAQ. The filling degree of a sack affects appearance, of course, handling and strength performance. There is an ISO technical report 828-1/1 that is defining the calculation formula of the usable volume of the sack. As a rule of thumb, the sack should always be able to fill with 10% more product as a target weight. For instance, a 25 kilogram bag should be able to be filled with 27.5 kilogram, or a 50 kilogram bag should be able to be filled with 55 kilogram maximum. The filling degree is optimal when the edge of the sack has an intermediate distance in between the corners of 2 centimeters when the sacks are stacked onto each other. As a rule of thumb, that's round about 2 centimeters. Finally, I want to point out that the aim in each project is always to have a high quality packaging technology. With high performance paper wall sacks, the whole packaging process is efficient. You can rely on fast filling and clean sacks. That's from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. It would be a pleasure to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Thomas, for your interesting speech and also for anticipating already one audience questions, that one with the paper bag size. So are there actually differences in the valve design for different filling machines? I was asking myself.
They are on the market. You can find a lot of different valve designs. That's depending on the used technology or on the knowledge of the converters, but at the end, they are all working.
Mm-hmm. So what actually the bursting of a paper sack can be a problem. So how can the burst of paper sacks be prevented on the filling machines from your perspective?
Mm-hmm. A sack on the filling machine will burst when the pressure inside is too high. That can be eliminated by choosing the right paper. So a high porous papers are always a good answer for this question. On the other side, you have to have a closer look on the whole plant. Maybe there can be some adapted settings for the filling machine or for the conveying system of the product.
Mm-hmm. Well, now the one more topic is coming up, the corners that you mentioned. Is there a solution to make the sacks tighter on the corners?
Yeah, that's quite often a problem, that a little bit dust come out and make the bag dirty. There are solutions available on the market, some new developments, but also that's a question of how and where to put the glue during converting. And all converters have a solution for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have one more question here coming in. How thick is the recommendation for sealing material?
Typically, we recommend a thickness of 50 GSM, so 50 grams per square meter. That's around about a thickness of 45 micron. Depending on the product that has to be filled, sometimes that rise up to 60 or 80 micron.
Mm-hmm. And well, there is someone wants you to say something about the HMB seal calculator. Could you say a few words on that, please?
Of course. The seal calculator is a small software tool that shows all the benefits of sealing technology. It is not explaining the technology itself. It's just an interactive tool to put all the customer data inside, and then you see the results in OPEX and CAPEX.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me see. I don't see for the moment. I have no more coming in. Well, then let's just conclude with one more question. Actually, well, we're consulting customers on their specific need, the needs that I said in the beginning. Mm-hmm. What are the aspects that are usually similar for different clients, and what are the aspects that you need to look more at more individually? Can you sort of put that into boxes?
I can try. I mean, at least each project, each customer has his own demands and wishes and dreams. At the end, everybody wants to have a picture perfect bag, I will say. But of course, the challenges are different depending on the industry. Like a cement customer has different approaches than a food customer. That's for sure. And that makes it always individual, and no project is the same like the other one before.
So any stories you want to share with us?
I have a lot of, but time is not enough for that.
All right. Well, then, Thomas, you, if there are further questions to you, they can certainly also be sent to info@eurosac.org, and they'll be forwarded to you, and you will try to answer. Oh,
of course, it would be my pleasure. Yeah.
I have one interesting question coming on in, and I'm just taking that before saying goodbye to you. Valve sealing materials are recyclable like craft paper? That's the question.
Like what? Like
craft paper.
Like craft paper. They are recyclable. They are some solution or starch-based coatings, but the most of them are plastic-based.
All right. Okay. Well, then at this point, thank you very much to you, Thomas. And
My pleasure. Yeah.
Well, we do conclude, well, now actually together with our closing survey question. And well, ladies and gentlemen, well, you've taken part today, and maybe last time also, which we certainly appreciate if you did. And we would like to know from you if there in the future are further webinars, what topics would you like to learn more about? Is it either carbon footprint of paper sacks, or is it paper sack design for a circular economy? Or is it innovative potential of fiber-based solutions? Or last options, how to find the white paper sack design for your exact purpose. So I'm just, well, giving you another, well, maybe half minute to make your choice and what you would like to learn about in future webinars. And I'm eager to see actually what your answers are. And I'm seeing that we already have more than 2/3 of the answers. And well, maybe our management already put in our speakers again on the screen so we can look at the results together.
Yes, I'm really curious to see also the results. And I mean, it's been very interesting experience to have these 2 webinars. And so it's good to have some feedback also, and to know what people are really interested in, so that we can orient them in the right way for the next ones.
All right, can we have technical management put the answers on? Oh, wow. So I would say we need 4 webinars, don't we? So we have 30% on innovative potential of fiber-based solutions. So we might have to put that in a row of priorities. And well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your answer. Catherine, what do you think?
Well, I would say that indeed, we're already going into this direction with all the biobarrier research we're doing. And okay, seems that the audience would like to hear more about those solutions, for example. Good.
Well,
yes, gives us some good ideas.
Okay, so we would try to plan that for next year then. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for your well, for your contributions and questions. And well, to my 3 speakers, Catherine Kearney Nelson, Asana Anderson, and Thomas Silling, thank you very much for very interesting, comprehensive speeches today. And well, on behalf of Eurosac and SAP Eurocraft, ladies and gentlemen, have a, well, very good rest of the week, good weekend, and all the best for the coming months, a happy holiday season, and see you hopefully next year at, well, one or the other webinar. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.